In this video, I'm going to talk to you all about which platform you should choose to set up your new online business. What do I mean by platform? Well, I mean web design, web development, web builder, whatever situation you might be in and what's going to be best for you. You should already understand everything about your brand, including your customer avatars or a client persona, depending on which sort of business you are. They're actually the same sort of thing. It just depends on whether or not you're selling products or services. Using your brand, you should have enough information to understand what your users want to know and read about on your website. So here's a top tip for you. Before you do anything else, the best thing to do is set up a domain name. A domain name is the thing that starts www at the top of your website. It's the thing that points everyone to your website in the first place. And the best place to buy that at the moment, I think, is from Google themselves. If you visit domains.google, you can look for and find the perfect domain name for your business. At the same time, you also get to set up a Google account, which does a load of decent things for your business, including setting up things like analytics, Google Docs, and Google My Business, all of which we'll probably try and cover in another video. What you can do within Google Docs that's really important is start to write out your website copy. And it's a good idea to do that before you put anything onto a platform. The reason I say that is because you can build everything out, you can work out exactly what you want to say and how you want to say it before you start looking at things like design and before you get bogged down with all of the other intricate little details about how your website might function. But which platform should you actually use? Well, that comes down to two things. The first thing is whether or not you intend to sell products on your website. And the second thing is how many products you intend to sell on your website. So if you're a service-only business or you just have a few simple e-commerce products to sell, then you probably don't need to go down the route of creating a full e-commerce store. The first of which is Wix. Wix is an online website builder. It's very easy to use, so you don't need to be a design master to understand it. They have loads of templates and it works just straight out of the box. The second is Wordpress. WordPress is probably one of the most impressive website platforms out there. It covers 60% of the web at the moment, so chances are you've probably been on the WordPress website today. The third is to go bespoke, but as you can imagine, that opens up the gateway to all kinds of complications. So let's talk about Wix. And when I say Wix, we're actually covering just about every other website builder out there. So it's the same sort of situation for Squarespace and Weebly and the others. The pros of using something like Wix are simple. They're really, really easy to use and they have loads of templates available. So really all you need to do is take that copy that I mentioned writing earlier on and grab a template and start filling it in. And it really is just as simple as that. It's just copy and paste and it really works that well. The great thing about them is that not only do they have all of that stuff set in there, but you can also expand your website using the tools that they provide to do things like e-commerce later on. And we'll cover a little bit about that later on in the video. WordPress also has thousands upon thousands of plugins, but unlike Wix, the difference is that those plugins are often made by third parties. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes not so much. It's a bit of a wild west. It can be difficult to find the right plugin for your situation. They are out there, but sometimes you might need a professional to help you pick. And last up, if you go down the bespoke route, you can do just about anything that you want. But the only thing is that it almost certainly involves some form of coding or some technical setup, which you probably won't be able to do yourself unless you're already a designer or developer, in which case you probably aren't watching this video. The main con of using something like Wix is that unfortunately it's not going to rank as well in Google, so it's not going to be as good for your search engine optimization. If you want to get to page 1, you probably don't want to use Wix. That doesn't mean that it's not an ideal platform for a startup though, because you don't always need to be number 1 to start making sales and start getting your business recognized. WordPress, on the other hand, is very good for search engine optimization, but again requires some more technical setup. If you're working with an SEO or marketing specialist like ourselves, you'd probably find that we'll ask to install a plugin or two to kind of push things along and make sure that we can see everything we need out the back of it, including your analytics, including probably something like Yoast SEO, which you'll have almost certainly heard of if you're a WordPress user. The drawback of using WordPress, of course, is that enormous library of plugins. There are so many out there, and the chances are that if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you might install something which slows your site down and causes all sorts of problems later on. And all of the work that you put into your SEO could be negatively impacted by those changes. Now, if you are an e-commerce customer, I really think there are really only two different ways that you can go with this at the moment. The first is to improve your already good WordPress website by adding WooCommerce to the mix. Now, WooCommerce is a plugin, and earlier on, as I said, it can slow your site down, it can do various other things. So it's best to make sure that you set this up correctly and perhaps even get somebody else involved, a professional, to help you make sure that you haven't made any mistakes along the way. Once you do have WooCommerce installed onto your WordPress website, you can use extensions to improve WooCommerce even further still. The other option, and the one which I'd recommend if you have a lot of products on your site, is to use Shopify. Now, unlike the other platforms listed on this list, Shopify is the only one which has been built specifically for the purpose of e-commerce. And so, as you can imagine, it's the best at it. Unlike WordPress, Shopify doesn't offer quite as many options to customize the design of your site, but arguably, you wouldn't want to do that if you have a large e-commerce site anyway. You see, the thing is that you're going to be picking from a bunch of different themes, and 9 times out of 10, shops only work one particular way. There's no point in trying to change the checkout or the basket, for example, because those things have already been tried and tested by developers in the past, and the setup that they have at the moment is already optimized for conversion. So we've gone down a few good options for your website. One thing I would say is you probably don't want to go down the route of using the web builder that comes with your hosting platform. Now, don't get me wrong, they look all right to begin with, but invariably they're very difficult to work with. They don't rank very well, and ultimately they don't get you where you need to be. You're much better off if you're going down the initial route of going with one of the sites that I mentioned earlier on. If you got value out of anything that I've said today, then please hit the like button below. It'll help show this video to more people that might find it useful too. So now you know how to set up a website in the first place. The next thing you're going to need to think about is how to get traffic to it. Luckily, we have a video for that. Just click the link on this side as soon as it comes up, and we will see you over there.